All right, wild card weekend. 2 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, 1 on Monday. Let's do these chronologically, just get your thoughts. The first being the Browns and the Texans, the 5-4 game in the old historical Houston Texans time slot, as we like to call it on Saturday wild card weekend. What do you have on this game? Did you make a bet? Do you have any thoughts on Cleveland and Houston?
Yeah, you know what was funny? Did some media, or did some postulating on Sunday and in the immediate aftermath of these games, and did some media yesterday talking about the wild card round. And my sentiment was, probably gonna be a light week for me. And then I finished updating my numbers with expected players availability for these games, and I'm all over the board. So it took 0.0 time for me to convince myself that there are meaningful edges in wild card weekend, and I have 2 bets in this game. And I honestly don't even know which one I like better, because they're both about the same in terms of magnitude. Texans money line and under, I think, are both very, very favorable prices in this contest. The Cleveland, honestly, like, I haven't thought through exactly why. I think both of these are so strong, other than just my numbers say that these are both mispriced. But 44 for a total, to me, is it's pretty aggressive, considering the skill position players that are available for Houston, combined with the offensive line injuries for Cleveland. I'm expecting that you're going to be looking a little bit more at a Cleveland attack that tries to emulate what we saw from Indianapolis last week, where it was a lot of run heavy, just in general leaning on the ground game. Now Cleveland doesn't have any runners who are even in the conversation of talent with Jonathan Taylor, but that said, they should find some success on the ground, which could shorten the game. Houston has a propensity to call minus EV sequencing of plays and really leaning into the run game when it doesn't work. So this game could get short real quick. So I think under 44 is my favorite look, but I would make Texans a small favorite in that one.
You gave a speech as to why, not a speech, but you told us why you like the under. Why do you like Houston on the money line here against Cleveland?
Better quarterback. CJ Stroud is he's for real. I don't really know any other way to parse it. I think the fact that he was in basically a playoff setting, most important game of his young career on the road, and he performed at that level was all I needed to see. I think ultimately him finding a way to get get hard yards against a Cleveland defense that I have a ton of respect for, but ultimately on the road is not quite as effective in terms of pass rush is kind of where it boils down to me, that Houston's going to be able to find a way here. I think really I think this is just going to be a slog of a game, and Houston wins with sort of end of game efficiency and a last minute type of field goals, sort of the expectation. But Houston, I do think with at home, healthy-ish offensive line, and expecting some of their skill position players back. Really, like if this is Nico Collins and on his own again, particularly if he is sustained any additional injuries in that Indy game, then I'm feeling not so great about my Houston bet. But I'm assuming Noah Brown or Robert Woods or both will be available, and that matters because you really have just one sort of standout cornerback for the Browns and Denzel Ward, and I think you can beat some of these other guys. And Juan Thornhill, Greg Newsome dealing with some injuries. I think ultimately that secondary can be capitalized on. So I'm happy everybody's so excited about Joe Flacco's amazing kind of return to the scene, but he's still Joe Flacco at age 30 whatever, and I don't think realistically that's going to be enough to get a road win against the Texans team that's playing pretty good football right now. We
have said on this show more than once, braced for a stinker at some point from Flacco. Braced for a stinker. I don't know if it's this week, but it's coming. Okay. And then again, in fairness, then I have to add, but in 2012 it never came. So I'll say that.
That's a good point.
Miami at Kansas City. This is, you and I were talking off air here. This is the one dog you don't like.
Yeah, I make this one outside of 3 by a decent amount for Kansas City. I didn't lay 3. I put Kansas City money line in a couple round robin parlays, but the Miami defense right here, I have rated as the worst defense in the. Actually, I was taking that back. The Eagles I have lower than Miami, amazingly. But no, Miami, which at times in the last half of the season, you could have made a case they were one of the better defenses in the NFL. The loss of, and I mean, in no particular order, Jalen Phillips, Jerome Baker, Andrew Van Ginkel, Xavier Howard. I'm sure I'm forgetting some people. Like the fact that you're basically down to Christian Wilkins and Jalen Ramsey, and there are as many holes as there are. Oh, Chubb gone. Like this has gotten to the point where you are basically playing with an entire second unit. I don't know that they have the personnel to do what Vic Fangio wants to do from a scheme standpoint, and I really don't have any issues at all going to war with Pat Mahomes in Kansas City, even in the cold weather, and even with the the lack of chemistry with the wide receiving core. I think in general, Kansas City is probably the team that stands out the most obviously to me among the playoff teams that could get upgraded meaningfully by market just based on putting together a couple of solid performances. People have kind of quit on their defense being elite, but if you remove turnovers, they're still top 5 in terms of EPA per play over the second half of the season. So Kansas City kind of checks every box for me as a realistic contender. And I think ultimately that they get a pretty comfortable win against Miami.
All right, biggest spread on the board Sunday morning. Bills 10-point favorites at home against the Steelers in the 2-7 in the AFC.
Yeah, so this one is a misprice from what I can tell you. I took the 10. I know the market's been kind of fighting over this one. I saw a 9 at one point at Circa yesterday. It's back up to 10, so somebody pretty clearly thinks Buffalo is the right side here, but I don't have a huge gap between these two teams right now. In fact, I'm kind of surprised to be even saying this out loud, but like Pittsburgh's offense is grading somewhat well and actually matches up well against Buffalo. I kind of can't even believe this, but I might actually take Pittsburgh money line in this one. The Buffalo defense is pretty is clearly improved from the lows that we saw earlier this year, but they can still be run on. I mean, you saw that in the first half against Miami. Like, there's ways to take advantage of this unit, particularly if you can get outside the tackles. That's where Pittsburgh wants to work. So it's kind of interesting to conceive of Mason Rudolph and company. Yes, he's been living on kind of low, just what do you call it? I doubt that these are repeatable over the long term. He's going to be able to unsustainable. Thank you. Unsustainable kind of explosive passing plays, but he's certainly playing a lot better quarterback than we saw anytime this season from Kenny Pickett, and definitely a huge upgrade over Mitch Trubisky. So I actually have Pittsburgh's offense on a neutral. If this was like a completely neutral game with no weather, I would have Pittsburgh's offense rated very similar to Buffalo's in this contest. I have Buffalo's defense better than Pittsburgh's, particularly in the absence of J.J. Watt. That's maybe the one thing that I think is tough to really, truly kind of wrap the price around in this one, because I am not expecting Watt to go. Pittsburgh is, I think, like, the conditions and the strength of their offense against what Buffalo is doing right now defensively is enough to keep them in this game. Ultimately expect this one to be relatively close, and if you're getting 10 points, I think you have to take the dog.
All right, let's try to do a minute on each of these. Then it's the Packers 7.5-point dogs at Dallas.
Yeah, I have this one as extremely competitive. I am blown away that you're getting 7.5 points here with Green Bay. I played a little bit of Green Bay. I played a little bit of Green Bay money line. I think the total there is perfectly fair. I make it 50, but I honestly don't know that I have a strong opinion one way or the other who will win, which means Green Bay with the at prices is the obvious bet.
Wow, these are I'm amazed by these. I have a lot to say, but I'm going to wait till you're gone, and then I can talk about you after you're gone, Drew. What about the Lions and the Rams? This is, well, it's not the most tightly lined game, but it's fairly tight. Obviously, the most tightly lined game on Sunday anyway.
Yeah, fingers crossed the Rams find a way to win here. I was expecting to run numbers and be like, yeah, Rams, they should be favored. No, I think it's fine that the Lions are favored. I think this total is obscenely high. And I think ultimately we have a game that's going to be contested by field goals decided towards the end. I have a lot of Rams future in pocket for NFC at some wild prices. So very, very hopeful the Rams find a way. But, I think people are kind of looking at this like it's going to be some sort of track meet. And I think both teams with a lead or, playing score and answer, will have an ability to get the ball moving on the ground, which could shorten this one. So I don't think we're going to get into the 50s here. And I like under the best out of any bet.
But no play on the side, under 51.5.
I have some Rams. I'd round robin money line on all the dogs in KC.
Okay.
So I have some Rams money line and round robins, and I have some outstanding futures on Rams that I'm very hopeful make it to the next round.
All right. So then you just you let us know then what's happening Monday night. You're on Tampa here as the dog against Philly.
Yeah, I initially thought this was a good underlook because of the weather and because of the injury situation with the quarterbacks, but my numbers say this should actually be over, so I bought out of my under stake, and I think Tampa Bay should be a small favorite. This is largely because I make Philly's defense the worst unit of any offense or defense in the playoffs as currently rostered, and I know they're going to get Slay back. I know that Blankenship may come back. I know that they may have some wrinkles that ultimately help kind of save their season, but if I needed one little push in the right direction, the fact that Matt Patricia is now your DC is enough for me to believe that this defense is not going to be able to get Baker Mayfield off the field, even though Baker Mayfield did not look good at all against Carolina. I think maybe a week and a day to get right, and this is a little bit more of a competitive effort from the Tampa offense. Philly offense I have as the best unit in this game by a margin, but I do have them as susceptible to the strength of the Tampa Bay defense and in general the scheme of the Tampa Bay defense, which relies pretty heavily on the blitz, has not been a recipe for success for Jalen Hurts this year. Combine that with the fact that Hurts is thrown to A.J. Brown, who's hurt, Devontae Smith probably not going, so you're kind of left with a relatively light cupboard in terms of skill position players to make plays. So ultimately, I think that one's going to be a coin flip of a game, and you're giving me the home team at plus money. I'll take them.
Wow. It's really true. Like, the Philly defense was bad, and then they're like, here, take it, Matt Patricia, and it got even worse, for sure. So all the dogs, weird how that happened. All the dogs except for the injury-depleted Dolphins. That's the Drew Dinsick take on Wild Card Weekend. My goodness. All right, man, a lot of money lines sprinkled in there. A lot to think about. Appreciate it, Drew.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.